And I said, come on over, you'll say.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Town of Portland podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kuzminski, and we're here in the Town Tech Educational Podcast Studio, and we are embarking on episode number 47, and with us in the studio is our first selectman, Mr. Ryan Curley, and we also have on the line our frequent flyer, the Director of Health for our Chatham Health District, Mr. Russ Melmed. So, welcome, guys. How are we doing?
Doing well, Dave. How are you?
Russ, you've been slowing down out there a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, it's sort of feeling a little bit more normal right now, as it was, around this time last year also. So, I enjoy the spring. I think we have some of the nicest spring weather anywhere in the country. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think the first day of spring is, 6-7 days away from now?
Yeah, and in fact, this coming weekend's daylight saving time, so it's going to be moving the clocks ahead, right? Yeah,
yep.
Spring ahead.
I think that's right.
Yep.
So a little bit nicer weather next week, and a little less COVID mania that we have to respond to equals, pretty happy health director.
There you go. All right, Ryan. Let's. What's happening in the lovely town of Portland? Give us the update here.
All right. Well, Dave, it is budget season.
You're in the barrel now.
I'm in the barrel now. This is my first budget as first selectman. So it's been a busy couple of weeks over the last few weeks working with our finance director, Tom Robinson, on this budget that I've presented to the Board of Selectmen and to the town.
Yep.
So certainly I want to thank Tom for all of his work. We were here all weekend, one weekend, working away on it. And so it's tough, coming in. Certainly you want to keep government functioning, but you also want to keep expenses as low as possible. I'm sure. You can understand that. And and so with this budget, one of the changes this year was that we had a revaluation.
Yep.
And so thank you to Rich Lasky, our town assessor, for all of his work on that. And we did have a bit of good news that our grand list rose by 11.3% from last year's grand list. So you see that reflected in the housing prices, as well as the increase in motor vehicle prices as well. So with that said, grand list is now $943 million. $690,270 is the full value of our grand list.
Okay.
And now with this budget, we're looking at a 2.82% increase as of right now over last year.
Okay.
Which as everyone is aware, the costs of a lot of things have been rising,
going up,
especially fuel prices, utilities, and so that did play a part in this increase. Certainly, for me, one of the priorities was making sure that we had money in our capital, that we were funding capital.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so the budget that I presented to the Board of Selectmen has $334,000 in capital in this budget. And so, I do realize, I wish it was zero. I wish I was proposing a flat increase. But certainly it's going to be up to the Board of Selectmen to look at the budget and look for ways to save. I came in to this budget and I wanted to make sure that I kept services and I kept the town as fully whole. I didn't want there to be any disruption in services. I wanted to make sure that the town would be able to continue to function the way that it has been functioning, while also addressing our capital needs. So that was my mindset going into this budget, and I do feel like I accomplished that goal with this budget. Now, like I said, it'll be up to the Board of Selectmen to go through it and to tell me where they would like to see additional savings. And so I also would like to thank our superintendent and the Board of Education for all of their work on the budget as well. So it's a joint effort. I know the Board of Education had a 2.75 increase over their fiscal year 22 budget.
Yep.
And so the general government had a 2.94 increase over the fiscal year 2022 budget. So that when you combine that, you get the 2.82%. That's the increase in expenditures.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I think we do a lot in the town of Portland. We certainly want to be efficient and not spend any money that we absolutely don't need to. And so I do think that this budget's reflective of that, and I'm ready to go for some budget deliberations, and I do want to say the public hearing will be on this coming Tuesday, March 15th at 7 p.m. in the public high school media room or
media
library,
center,
the
library.
media center.
Correct. Yep.
And it'll also be on Zoom as well. And so I look forward to being able to present the budget to the town of Portland.
Sure.
And then our first deliberations will be the following day on
Wednesday.
The 16th. So
right.
So that's where we're at with this, and that's the big thing for March has been
right.
Making sure that certainly we want to make sure that this information that's out here gets relayed to our residents, and
right.
so hopefully we'll have done a well enough job at this that in May when it goes to referendum that we
can pass the budget.
Exactly. Yes,
yeah, that's the whole key. Well, I know you guys have been working hard. I know you and Tom have been burning the midnight oil the last few weeks here on the weekends and so forth. And Rich has too. Trying to get the grand list compiled and grand list and get the letters out and the notifications and all that kind of stuff. So we certainly appreciate your hard work. And I know Tom has been, like I say, crunching the numbers as well as you have. And trying to make things work. And that's what it's all about. Getting the budget to the point where we can maintain the services that our citizens expect, but by the same token, being frugal at the same time.
Exactly. That's always the balance.
Yeah, and so forth. So, well, that's great. Hopefully, like I say, the budget hearing is next Tuesday, and that's going to be at the media center at the library up here at the high school. As normally we do it in the auditorium, but the auditorium is being consumed with the Little Mermaid the Portland High School play. So we got bumped to the media center. So we got
bumped this year.
Yes. So anything else happening on the economic front, or as far as I know, I've been going down and documenting a lot of the demolition and so forth at Brainerd Place. That's moving along. And hopefully we'll be able to see a lot more progress down there.
Yep. I can say I spoke with Dan Bertram yesterday. We actually had about an hour length of a phone call, and we had a great discussion. He told me about the progress that's being made. And anyone who's been driving by Brainerd Place, you'll see the demolition that you're talking about, Dave, and they've been doing a lot of work on that. And so there's been a couple hang-ups on the technical side in order to get the permits in order to start building,
right?
And that would be the building of Building E, which is the first apartment building unit.
Yeah.
And so in order for that to happen, they still need to do a couple things, one of which is to merge all the parcels together. Right. So that hasn't happened yet, and so I was talking with Dan about that, and I know that he is well aware. There was an issue on Perry Avenue with one house in particular that I think held up things a little bit. But I think that problem has been solved, and that should be resolved by the end of this month. Okay. And so once that happens, then really what I've been told is that the parcels can be merged, and then we can get the building permits, because that's really what everyone's waiting for.
Sure.
Is to see the actual building. The construction is going to be great. So So that's where we're at. I think that there's still some details to be ironed out with with what's going on. I think that we might have to revisit the tax abatement, the tax incentive agreement that we had, because some of the deadlines that I was just talking about may not have been met. So that's something that may be coming before the Board of Selectmen in the future, maybe the near future, to address that. But certainly, as you go by, you do see that that it is in the works. It's been a long time coming.
It's happening.
It is happening. So it is good to see that. And then also we have our 248 Brownstone Avenue project that I'm also very excited about, and that's it's the brownfield project that will be remediated very soon. So the company who is doing the remediation work, Enviro Consultants and Recyclers, I was told last week that they were bringing some equipment there on site already to get ready to go for this. So that will be great, because once they start that remediation work on that property, it moves very quickly.
Yes.
So getting that accomplished is going to be great for the town. We'll be able to have this RFP go out. I've given our RFP for a public-private partnership to our finance director, Tom Robinson, and he is aware that this needs to go out. I told him, I said, Tom, this is a very important RFP.
Yep.
And Tom told me that all RFPs were important. So
yes.
I said, well, this one's important too. So we got to get this out. And so I know it's on Tom's list of things to do, but certainly, the sooner that can get out, the better, because then hopefully we'll be able to find a partner that's going to help with this property for the long term. And so it's certainly a piece of our economic development in Portland, and we want to make sure that we keep the ball moving forward on this.
Sure.
So yeah, those are the two biggies that I've been working with.
And we've also had the RFPs for the water project that have gone out, correct?
Yes.
And we had I think the evaluations of the firms and so forth. So
we have not. The only thing we haven't done yet, Dave, is select the firm that we are going to go with. So because it's a grant from DPH. So I just received an email from DPH yesterday about this, and so there's a process that we need to follow with that. But yes, certainly that's moving along. I know you're excited. I'm excited about this.
Well, we need to do it.
We certainly, there's no way around it. We need to do it, and so I will say that we received several RFPs, and I think that help is on the way.
Great, fantastic, good news. Anything else that we need?
Those are the things that I would say that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm sure I'm forgetting, some things as well as I'll probably think of it as soon as I stop talking. But for now, I think that's good.
All right. We'll throw it over to Russ, and if you think of anything before we close, then we can come back to that and go from there. So, in the meantime, Mr. Russ Melmed from the Chatham Health District is on the line with us, and Russ, it's over to you.
All right. Well, I've got so many things going on right now. Now that COVID-19 has sort of eased a little bit, the burden in our community is starting to focus on a lot of other things with regards to the health department operations lately. So, but we'll just say briefly that, hospitalizations are way down, cases are way down. We're really at a different point in the pandemic at this point. We've got some really good therapeutics available to people if they get.
Are you there, Russ? I think we lost you there for a second. Hello. I think.
Dave, can you hear me okay?
There.
Okay. All right. Sorry. So, things with COVID-19 have settled down quite a bit. We've got a lot of things going for us right now. Hospitalizations are way down. Cases are way down. In Portland, we're approaching 80% of the population having been fully vaccinated. We've got a number of therapeutics for people to, if they get sick, they can take them, reduce their likelihood of getting really sick. We've got some, prophylactic monoclonal antibody treatments for people who are immunocompromised and for whom the vaccine may not work, as effectively as it does for others. So we're really sort of at a different point in the pandemic. We're no longer looking at every case like we used to as a potential risk of a severe outcome or as a potential risk, of severe outcomes for others. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of the mandates go away, including masks in schools. And we're shifting really towards a model that focuses on sick people and what you do when you're sick.
Right.
As opposed to sort of some widespread, rigorous system of contact tracing and quarantines and things like that. So, I'm optimistic. I was optimistic this time last year. So what I'm saying now is we're in a good place now where we can sort of relax a little bit. But, we're keeping our eye out, of course, on how things evolve, but hoping for a nice spring and summer.
Sure. Yeah, the state average, I think, is just a little over 2, correct?
Yeah, the test positivity rate, which frankly I don't think it's the greatest measure of risk. It really is only best described as something that tells us if testing capacity is sufficient. But yeah, 2%, it's been hovering there. We may have plateaued here. We've been here for a couple weeks now. Hospitalizations have come down, but the decline has slowed somewhat. Same with case numbers. So, it's still pretty cold out. I think a lot of people are still inside. So we might be at this sort of plateau for a few weeks until it really starts to warm up and people really start to get outside a lot more. Mm-hmm. Offices and schools start to open up windows. So we may be here for a few weeks. I don't think we'll see cases and positivity bottom out for a few weeks now. But I'm optimistic for the spring and summer. So I think we're in a good place.
Right.
For other things going on at the health department, we went through our budget season, and I'm curious to hear some of Ryan's thoughts on this because we think everybody in government and civil service is dealing with some same issues in Connecticut anyway, and that's an aging of the workforce. That's people not entering the workforce as young green people. And so I know at health departments like Chatham, we see people leave to go get the same job in another place.
Yes.
And, the only way we can replace those people typically is by hiring somebody away from another municipality or another health department.
Right.
And there's sort of like this musical chairs in Connecticut, and the musical chairs may be, you're removing one chair at a time, if anybody's played musical chairs. And I think of the removing of the chair as people actually leaving the workforce or retiring.
Yeah.
So we've got like this, the same demand, in fact, increasing demand on municipalities and health departments to maintain services, but a decreasing pool of qualified people.
Sure.
So right now, in health departments around the state, people are starting to talk about workforce development.
Yes.
And I appreciate Ryan's comments about trying to sort of keep costs as low as possible. But what we see in municipalities and health departments is when those people leave to go work somewhere else, you have to hire somebody away from another health department or another municipality.
Right.
And it puts this upward pressure on salaries. People don't tend to leave a job they enjoy for the same amount of money that they're making.
Right.
They'll only leave for more, and sometimes you have to pay that person more than you were paying the person who just left you.
Right.
And that's the upward pressure. It's sort of this spiral, and
Yes.
It's not the kind of spiral we like to see.
No, I agree with you, yeah.
It's just really, really challenging, and I don't know if Ryan's got any ideas for workforce development, but, one of the things that we talk about are internships and, bringing in people who don't have any experience and,
Right.
paying them a fair but low wage, something affordable.
Sure.
And seeing those people, eventually, some of those people are going to leave and go get a position somewhere else, but so long as you're developing a workforce in that way,
Right.
the hope is that eventually they'll get to a better point. But we're all looking at that with our budgets. We presented, I think, what is a fair budget from the health department side. But
Sure.
I'm always looking at that horizon and thinking, okay, when's the next staff person going to leave, and how am I going to replace that person? So I don't know, Ryan, if you got any thoughts on workforce development and how municipalities go about trying to replace qualified staff when they leave, but we're all dealing with the same thing. It's a challenge.
Yeah, no, honestly, Russ, it's an excellent point. I know that Portland is no stranger to that, and I think for us, maybe it's also the health district, but certainly, Portland is on the smaller end of the municipality scale. So, what we've seen over the years is, maybe someone might come to work for the town of Portland and kind of get their feet wet, maybe
Get their stepping stone.
get their certification that they need, and then they may get, like you said, Russ, get recruited by a larger fish for more money in another town, and we've kind of seen that many times, and certainly, I want to. I'm always happy for any employee and their opportunities. We want our town employees to be happy here, but certainly I do recognize that there is competition out there, and that we need to be mindful of that as well. So as far as workforce development goes, I mean it's a big question. It's not just at the local level, but I know it's at the state level. I think that the state is in the same situation. You have the silver tsunami on the way, and it is a real issue that I think we'll be dealing with more and more. And I think that you're right. I think that more attention will need to be spent on development. I don't know if it's going to be at the high school level or the college level, but certainly, public, administration, government. It's a very, I found it to be a very worthwhile career, and that and we need to make sure that we're letting our youth and our people know that it's something that they might want to aspire to be and to look into, because if we don't have that influx of new people, there's going to be a lot of empty chairs. And so I think that it's a real problem. I think that it needs to be addressed. I think you're seeing it. I've seen it in just my short time here so far, but it's something that I don't have the answer. I'll be honest right now, Russ.
Sure.
But
neither do I. I was hoping for something really amazing, Ryan. I could take back to Chatham and say, you know what Ryan said we should do? This. I know everybody's struggling with it. You're getting at kids, letting them know that going into public service or civil service is a lifelong good career. Pays a living wage, comfortable, a comfortable kind of job, and it's really important work.
And it's a secure job too.
I look at the health department and I think, okay, everybody talks about economic development, and we're regulators mostly, and when people want to build things or do things with their properties or open up businesses, there are statutes and codes that we have to enforce before those things can happen. And if our workforce is short, those things are delayed.
Sure.
And that slows down economic development. And so that's kind of the thing I like to impress on people, young people, especially in college or even in high school, that, if you want to improve your community, if you want to work on economic development, if you want to work on housing issues, things that matter to people every day, working for a municipality, working for a health department, even though, yes, oftentimes it's code enforcement, is the way to get that done. And if we don't have people doing that work,
sure,
things slow down. But those are the kinds of things, Dave, just to come full circle, that now the COVID-19 is dialing back, I can start focusing a little bit on a workforce development plan for the health district, focus a little bit more on trying to get some grants. We just recently got a pretty hefty grant from the Food and Drug Administration to transform our food protection program. We're going to get, over the next 3 years, about $500,000 to go and transform our inspection programs to be all digital, which is really important. So I think that's going to make us more efficient. It would also make us a more transparent organization, because it'll allow residents to access public records without having to come into the office and open up a file. If they want to know food service inspection, what the last score at their favorite restaurant was, they'll be able to get that stuff online. So we're happy to have gotten that grant. I think it's going to be great for us. And hopefully, we can focus a little bit more on those kinds of things.
Sure.
and I hope that COVID-19 sort of stays a little bit at bay for a while so we really can focus on those things. It's been 2 years of such a heightened focus on
That's all we talked about.
infection. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as you know, Russ, I mean, I'm heavily involved in the water sector and so forth. And as Ryan knows, a month ago I launched a brand new podcast that I'm hosting, and it's going national. But it's the future of the water and wastewater industry and the careers you didn't know about. And we've had right now we just launched our 5th episode this past week and so forth. And our first episode, I had our guest who was the head of the branch chief of the health department, water supply section, Lori Matthew, was on.
Oh yeah, Lori. I know Lori well. She's great.
So and again, as you said. You're not the only industry that is experiencing the great tsunami or the silver tsunami or whatever you want to call it, or in my case, the bald tsunami. And our second guest that I had on was Maureen Westbrook, who was the president of the Connecticut Water Company. And, of course, they're experiencing the same thing. And our third guest was Bill Sullivan from the health department, who is in charge of the operator certification. And the statistics from the state, when I became an operator and certified and so forth, we had over 800 operators in the state. Now we have a little over 4. So, it's a staggering statistics. And what's happening is that a lot of those operators that were operating one system are now operating maybe 3 systems or 4 systems. And as you said, the water utilities are struggling looking for operators. And, a lot of time they're recruiting from other utilities. And that's where the competition becomes and that's where that upward pressure as far as salaries goes, is happening.
And that's the really hard part about being in government is, as Ryan said, trying to keep government affordable.
Sure.
When you have something like this with an aging workforce and not only that, but having difficulty attracting young people into that workforce, the cost of government goes up and can go up quite a bit.
Sure.
And the option, the only other option is not providing services or delaying services, which slows economic development down. So really sticky situation that,
right.
You don't want to put too much of a burden on taxpayers, but,
right.
Because that's kind of the death spiral. If you keep making government more and more expensive because people are leaving and you can't attract people, then you're going to make living in this place more expensive.
Sure.
And then you're going to attract fewer young people. So you don't want to get into that death spiral,
No. But there again, making those careers available, or in the younger sector of people aware of those careers, because a lot of times,
absolutely.
From the standpoint of certifications goes, you've got solid positions that are well-paid positions and so forth that you don't necessarily have to go to college for. Certainly the engineering and all that aspect, you need a college degree, but a lot of the operators and, to be a treatment plant operator or a sanitarian or whatever, you have a state certification that you have. And once you get that certification, okay, then you're off and running. And it doesn't necessarily mean, from a student standpoint, encumbering yourself with maybe, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in student loans, okay, that you're burdened with, for the next 10 years and so forth. So
right. I mean, actually, that's one of the things that we want to work on in local health. To be a registered sanitarian in the state of Connecticut, you actually do have to have a 4-year college degree.
Oh, okay.
Which to me, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, I understand wanting somebody to have a college degree. Maybe it demonstrates a certain
competency,
flexibility of thought or a certain level of achievement. But I've worked with plenty of sanitarians because it didn't used to be that way. It was not always required.
Right.
I've worked with plenty of sanitarians in my career that didn't have a bachelor's degree, and they were great sanitarians. Mm-hmm. So I don't really see it, but the state requires it. It's just one of those things that we'd love to say, let's remove that. Let's remove barriers to having people enter the workforce and getting advancement in the workforce.
Sure.
I think we have to look at those kind of creative things, very, very basic.
Yeah. So I mean that's the thing. I created the Water and People class about 10 years ago. It was the first class in the country that allowed high school seniors to become certified as small water systems operators and so forth. So we got a lot of national recognition on that. And of course, I was teaching here at Portland High School, and then I took it to Bloomfield High School and so forth. But the whole podcast is primarily I'm basically interviewing operators and everybody in the industry, from operators, cross connection, to HR people, to accounting people, because the water umbrella, as well as the health umbrella, is the tent's a big tent. You have obviously certified operators, you have HR people, you have customer service people, you have accountants, you have the list goes on and on. So, and I'm sure you have the same thing in the health side, as far as that goes. But
it's the same thing. We've got a whole support structure that's needed to get the job done.
Sure.
And some people come in and they do some basic inspection work for us, or they might even start off not even in sort of the environmental health field, but
right.
And then they get interested in it.
Sure.
And then they move over from one side of the business to the other. I'm always thrilled when that happens, because it means somebody really feels strongly about, they enjoy the work, they're curious about it, they want to learn more, they want to do more.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but
that's okay.
These are the things that I think we need to
sure
think about, that I'm thinking about while I have some time with COVID-19, dialed back a little bit.
Sure. Well, like I say, if later we can talk offline. If you want to start something, we can talk about maybe you doing your own podcast as far as on the sanitary and the public health field.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd happily do that, so we can have that conversation.
Sure.
I mean, I think right now, for anybody listening, I don't think there's anything to worry about with Chatham Health District. Right now, we are fully staffed, which I think is rare. Most health departments in the state are recruiting, but I'm sort of, I'm trying to steel myself for when my staff says, I got a job offer somewhere else. But, for the last couple years, we've been fully staffed, and we've got a good range of employees, from people with 30-plus years of experience to people with 2 years of experience. So
there you go.
And I think we're in a really good spot right now, and making Chatham Health District a fun place to work, a nice place to work, a supportive place to work is how I'm going to hopefully retain my staff. But, always looking at the horizon.
There you go. All righty. Thanks, Russ. I appreciate it. Ryan, anything else that you thought of in the meantime while we were kind of off on our on our workforce succession planning?
No, I don't think so. But I certainly agree with all of Russ's points regarding this, and we're going to have to keep looking at it.
Absolutely. Well, go to waterandpeople.com, and you can hear all of my podcasts and so forth. And last weekend I was at a annual technical conference for the water industry over at the AquaTurf, and I did 9 podcasts with customer service people, operators, directors of Wallingford, Bristol, Aquarion. Basically describing what their day job was like. So for all of it, and we're going to be distributing that to all of the high school guidance departments. So maybe we can spark some interest of the younger students to be considerate of the public health field and in all aspects. To go from there. So cool. Okay. All right, Russ, thank you so much. Ryan, thank you. That concludes our episode number 47 here of the Town of Portland podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kuzminski, and we are in the Town Tech Educational Partnership podcast studio at Portland High School. So until next time, stay safe, and spring is coming. All right, thanks so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Dave Kuzminski. Please tune in every week for new and relevant conversations about the town of Portland. You can find us at portlandct.org or at YouTube/Town of Portland, and now wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you've enjoyed our podcast, please consider subscribing and sharing with friends. This podcast was produced by the Town Tech Educational Partnership Program, which is a partnership between Portland High School and the Portland Town Hall. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or organization, check out towntech.org/podcast to learn more.